There is a silent enemy that lives within you. It doesn't sleep, it doesn't rest, and it shows up precisely when you are at your most vulnerable. It doesn't scream or strike with physical force, but it can quietly destroy you from the inside out. This enemy is made of your own negative thoughts, and if you don't learn to master them, they will master you. Carl Jung, one of the greatest explorers of the human soul, understood that hell is not a fiery pit beneath the ground. It's the storm that rages inside our minds. Imagine for a moment that every negative thought is a seed. If you don't act, that seed will grow, taking root deep in your inner world. What once was fertile ground for love, peace, and creativity slowly turns into a dark jungle filled with fear, guilt, and self-loathing. Have you ever been sitting in silence when your mind suddenly starts replaying all the times you failed, all the mistakes you've made, all the times you heard, "You're not enough"? That's the untrained mind at work. That's the shadow Jung spoke about. But Jung wouldn't simply tell you to just think positive. Instead, he would invite you to face your shadow, to get to know yourself, to watch your thoughts without judgment, but never to give them power, because what you deny has the power to control you, but what you accept you can begin to transform. Your mind is not your enemy, it is a tool. But if you let it become the master of your inner home, you become a prisoner inside your own house. Most people believe their thoughts are absolute truths, but they're not. They're just interpretations, learned patterns, echoes of words someone else spoke into your life. If today you feel like you're worthless or like you'll never make it, it's not because that's true. It's because your mind has grown used to repeating that same destructive story, like an old radio no one ever thought to turn off. The heartbreaking truth is that many people get used to living this way because it's all they've ever known. But today could be the day that changes everything. The first step is to observe yourself. Don't identify with every thought that pops into your head. Every time a negative idea appears, look at it as if it were a cloud drifting by in the sky. You are not the cloud, you are the sky. Thoughts come and go, and you decide whether you get caught in the storm. Maybe that thought you keep repeating once served to protect you from pain, but you don't need it anymore. You are evolving. You are waking up. You are reclaiming control. If this message is striking a chord within you, don't ignore it. There's a reason you're hearing this right now. Maybe your soul is ready to awaken. Maybe you're tired of being trapped inside your own mind. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This means that unless you learn to see and shift the patterns inside your mind, you'll keep attracting the same stories, the same toxic relationships, and the same emptiness. Your mind is like a lens, and if it's fogged up with limiting beliefs and fear, then everything you see will appear distorted. It won't matter how much love you receive if your mind insists you don't deserve it. That's why the first real power you must reclaim is the power of conscious attention. What are you feeding every day? Where is your energy going? Toward your doubts or toward your potential? This is not about pretending everything is fine. Jung would guide you to face your inner monster directly, to say to it, "I see you, but you're no longer running my life." Negative thoughts thrive in silence and ignorance, but lose their power the moment you expose them to the light of awareness. It's not enough to simply stop thinking negatively. You must re-educate your mind just as a dedicated gardener tends to his soil. If a gardener pulls out weeds but leaves the ground bare, the weeds will return. The earth abhors a vacuum, and your mind, like that soil, will not remain empty for long. If you do not consciously plant new seeds, new beliefs, new affirmations, the old patterns will inevitably grow back. But if you choose to plant thoughts of hope and strength, and you tend to them daily, these will be the ones to bloom. There is a simple yet profound practice that can change the landscape of your mind. Each morning, take a few minutes to write down 3 affirmations that challenge your current identity and remind you of who you're becoming. For example, I am capable of building a life rooted in peace. Or I am not my thoughts. I am the one who observes them. These are not magic spells, but they are tools, and what you water grows. The point is to reprogram your inner world day by day, and that's where the transformation lies, in consistency, not intensity. Jung spoke of the archetype of the inner warrior. Not the kind of warrior who fights to dominate others, but the one who fights for his own soul. The warrior who doesn't flee from pain or darkness, but steps into the fire and becomes his own healer. That warrior is already inside you, waiting. And each time you refuse to surrender to the voice that tells you you're not enough, you awaken him. Do you know what terrifies a negative mind the most? The moment you begin to believe in yourself, the moment you stop being passive and start acting with purpose, the moment you open your eyes, even in pain, and say, I may feel broken, but I will keep going. That moment signals something extraordinary. You're no longer a prisoner of your thoughts. You are the author of your life. You don't need everything in your life to be perfect to start changing how you think. In fact, it's because things are messy that your choice to change carries even more power. Chaos is not the enemy. It's the raw material from which transformation is born. Killing your negative thoughts doesn't mean erasing every painful memory. It means looking at them not with fear, but with curiosity, and asking them what they came to teach you. Jung once said, gold is found where you least want to look. Your power and your deepest potential are hidden in the very places you've avoided for years, the wound you refuse to face, the truth you silence when you're alone. That's where the treasure lies. Avoidance doesn't cure pain, it buries it. What is buried grows in the dark. Negative thoughts are not defeated by distraction. They are healed through understanding. Ask yourself, what wound is still bleeding that causes me to think this way? Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. When you don't examine your mind, you end up living the same story over and over, trapped in a prison built by your own unexamined thoughts. But the moment you become aware, you unlock the possibility of choice, and in that choice lies your freedom. One of the most important steps is self-compassion. This is about choosing to stop being your own worst enemy. It's about recognizing that you are a human being in the process of becoming. You have made mistakes, but you are not your mistakes. You have been hurt, but you are not the pain. When you begin to cultivate self-compassion, your inner dialogue stops being a battlefield and becomes a place of understanding. You begin to treat yourself with the same respect, care, and forgiveness that you so freely give to others. You start walking beside yourself, even in moments of failure, and that is nothing short of revolutionary. The next time your mind whispers, "I can't," respond with, "I'm learning." When it says, "I'm worthless," counter with, "I'm evolving." What you repeatedly tell yourself becomes your reality. If you spend every day nurturing thoughts that harm you, don't be surprised if you find yourself living in pain. But if you dare to plant new thoughts, your external world will slowly begin to mirror your internal evolution. Jung once said that the most terrifying experience for a human being is to accept themselves completely, but also that it's the most liberating, because once you truly accept who you are, you no longer crave external validation or need the approval of others to feel worthy. You stop chasing an illusion of perfection that was never real to begin with. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It means looking at yourself honestly and saying, "This is where I am today, and from here I will grow." The journey inward is the hardest of all, but also the most transformative. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you've always been. You didn't come into this world to be imprisoned by your thoughts. You came here to express yourself, to create, to connect, to grow. Let go of the need to have everything figured out and the pressure to be perfect. Negative thoughts won't vanish by magic, but they can be weakened every time you choose not to react. Every time you transform "I can't" into "I'm willing to try," you are rewriting your story. And that is one of the bravest things anyone can do. Before we finish, I want to leave you with one final act of power. Close your eyes for a moment, breathe, and say silently within yourself, with strength and conviction, "Today I choose not to be a slave to my mind. Today I choose to think with love, with clarity, with purpose. Today I kill the thought that steals my peace and plant the idea that reminds me of who I am." This declaration is a shield, a seed, a decision. Now, share this message with someone who needs it. You have no idea how many people are silently trapped in their minds, not knowing how to escape. Be a light to others. Be a guide. Help others. Wake up the way you are waking up now. And if this message stirred something deep inside you, don't let it fade. Save it. Revisit it. Live it. Because real transformation doesn't come from what you hear. It comes from what you choose to apply. Your transformation has already begun. And always remember, you are not your thoughts. You are so much more